Merry meet, Annie here. I am going to talk now about totems and animal guides from my experience of them. I believe absolutely that there is an aspect to this world and the other that surrounds a relationship to our animal guides. I'll use the example of my familiar. I had a bit of an unusual familiar. He was in my life for 17 years. He was a large galump of a dog. He wasn't a black cat. He wasn't anything mysterious. He verged on a hound dog. He was half red Doberman and half pit bull. Now this dog was a kind soul. People would come in our house, one look at 90 pounds of hound doggy, kind of threatening looking dog, put some people ill at ease. They'd sit on the couch and they wouldn't know what was going on. But my Emmett, that was his name, would come and sit next to them. He wasn't the kind that was pushy when people didn't trust him, didn't feel comfortable with him. He would sit next to them. Without fail, their hand would find its way to scratch his head or touch his back. Before long, his big head would be laying in their lap, and that relationship was cemented. Now, his energy, who he was, what his purpose was on earth, always remains a mystery. It's the same for all of us. We don't necessarily know why we go or come. But in the tradition I was taught early on, we adopted a familiar. When it came into our lives, no control over when that would happen or if it would happen. Emmett passed away 2 years ago now, and I've been without a familiar in that time being. I don't know if I'll have another one. I just know that when he was in circle with me and he showed up for circle, the first light of a candle, the first whiff of incense, and he had to lie in front of the altar, whether I was alone or whether circle was in my house. It was a given that he was part of what would happen. His energy was calming, it was centering, it was grounding. He was a magnet that drew certain earth energies. He could have laid it north and been north. It was that draw of the element, that if you follow what I'm saying there. Now, I was trained as a young witch that we needed an animal totem, before we were permitted to take meditative journeys or travel to the underworld. And that was because the belief was that that animal instinct that tied you to the earth, to the beast in you, to that which belonged walking on the face of the earth, is what brought you safely back from those travels. So all throughout my life, the idea of a guide and a totem and a familiar had been part and parcel with my spirituality. Emmett allowed me to be him. And by that I meant in meditative moments, if I laid down with him, I could become him so completely that he would walk about and do his business, and I would be with him. And I would know what it was like to see the world from his point of view, to smell it, to taste it, to see it. The simplicity of it, the beauty of it, the guttural nature of it. And it kept me in tune, as familiars will, with the beast side of us and the other ways of walking in this world. Now, when it comes to the other world, I went on a search for an animal guide. It was months and months and months, and my priest would not take me farther into meditations into the underworld because no totem had adopted me. And his teaching was that I needed that totem to attend to me as a spirit guide when I journeyed in the underworld. Very frustrating. And I tried to force the issue because I wanted something like bear or wolf, owl. I didn't care. Bear and wolf were the ones I really wanted, something feisty with big claws. because they were going to be a good traveling partner, I just knew. It didn't happen. And my priest would not take me into the underworld, would not guide me on those meditations. And my partner that I was training with at the time seemed like he was so much farther ahead than I. Hawk had adopted him, and off he went on these meditations, and I felt left out. Eventually, in a dream, I knew I was flying, and as time went by, the dream got more and more detailed, and I realized that I was a Canada goose. Now, this is not a totem I wanted, but it is the totem I became. Actually, that totem has stood me well throughout my years. When I took my first deep meditations into the underworld, and you go through that period of time where it's difficult to learn how to return, without fail, at the moment it was time for me to return, the nasty honking sound that Canada Goose makes would just grab me by the ears and haul me back up and out and into the world of my time and my place. So my totem has served her purposes. She started out doing a good job in those days, and she's very much a part of my meditations now. She usually shows up when there's a message I need to listen to. She shows up when I need to pay attention. She's an attention getter, an attention seeker. Plus, studying over the years, the goose, the Canada goose, its natures, its relationship, not surprising you keep hearing this word with me, its communal relationships, a devotion to its mate, the power of its flight, everything it's capable of doing. It's been just what I needed in the way of totem. And I so wanted something with fur and claws. Instead, I got feathers and that obnoxious honking, which has stood me well over and over again through my experience in meditation and in travel and in the dreamland. So 2 instances of spirit guide, my totem, and also the power of the familiar, the one who walks with you on this plane, which is really your deepest connection to what it's like to live on this plane at the primal level. Very important parts of my spirituality. So I did want to address that video from early pagan perspective days because it's important to me and has been very important to my experience as a pagan. Mirth and reverence. Merry part.